Joining us now in Studio B, a man who played for both of the teams that Jeremy and I picked as our greatest BYU teams ever, 1983 and 1984 football, Blaine Fowler. Blaine.
Blaine?
So the
Some context here.
I know. So the criteria, it depends on how you set up your criteria. Because I feel like to be included in this, you have to finish. You have to finish the season, And then I also look and say, so it's a combination of how did you play, were you relevant on a national landscape, and how many people from that team went on and played at the next level, whether it's golf. Like, I didn't even think about that 81 golf team.
Oh, they were amazing.
I think they had 3 PGA players that were good on the PGA Tour off that team. So I got to throw that one in my top 5. I forgot about that. Whoever tweeted that out, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Keith Clearwater, Mike Reed.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. That team was amazing.
It was a great team. So we got to give some credit there. And then I go back and think about some of the track teams that had Ed Eyestone and that whole group on it that were so good. So but that golf one's a good one. We got to put them up there in the top 5.
Okay, Blaine. Golf's in the top 5. What's your greatest BYU team ever?
I want to get on an argument you guys had about.
Okay.
Basketball.
All right.
But my number one team is going to be the '84 national championship team because they finished. Because they were relevant on a national scale. Everybody was talking about it. And because if you look at the number of guys that went and played in the NFL that played on that football team, it was double digits. I'm trying to think. I think it was about 15 guys from that team as I was going through the roster that ended up in the NFL from that team.
All those guys played on the 83 team, though, too, right?
A lot of them were on the 83 team. And some of them, and some of them carried over to the 85 team. The 85 team was unbelievably talented as well. And a couple of turnovers away from, I thought going into 85, if we could keep everybody healthy, we could repeat.
Wow.
Because of the talent that was back on that team. And so there was a period of time, 80, 83, 84, 85, where there was an unbelievable amount of talent on that football team on a lot of guys that went on and played and had big-time careers in the NFL. And I'm thinking about not just, hey, they went and played for a couple years. You're talking about, off that 83 team, Steve Young was one of the greatest that ever played the game. But how about Leon White and playing double-digit seasons in the NFL and starting in Super Bowls, and Kurt Govea, who was a Pro Bowler, and So we're not talking about just guys that went on and played a little bit in the league. We're talking about guys that played for a long time and that were at a high level and respected in the league. So I have to go with 84 because that team finished the job, so they got it done. But now back to this basketball discussion.
Okay.
So
81 or 2011?
So
the top 2 ever. It's just which is number 1.
So 81, Fred Roberts, longtime NBA guy. Not over in Europe playing, NBA guy that was a contributor. NBA. Greg Kite, longtime NBA guy that played as a backup, but to some really, really good centers.
We'd take a backup in the league
Danny
right
Ainge, not just, he played in the league, one of the best players in the league for a long time, an all-star. So how are we going to compare 11 to that? 81 has more NBA big-time guys. Yeah, I give you Brandon Davies, and he's a fantastic player. Jimmer is one of the greatest that have ever played here. But if I play those two teams against each other, Jimmer can't guard Danny, but Danny could guard Jimmer.
Truer words have never been spoken on this program.
And I'm not sure that Jackson could guard Danny.
Yeah, can Jackson guard Danny? Because that's BYU's best defender ever, right?
And then can Jimmer guard Steve Craig? I think Steve Craig can get out there and do pretty good. But then who guards Fred, and who stops Greg from being, and Greg's in there as a shot blocker and a rim protector inside. And Steve Trumbo, who I think was an NBA talent, but he took his language skills, being able to speak Spanish, and he went over, and he was an international superstar for years and made a tremendous career over there. I think he could have been a backup player in the NBA for a decade. He was that good, but chose to be a superstar over in Spain and raise his family over there and had endorsement deals and all kinds of things. He was a great player. And so, I don't know, that 81 team is as talented a basketball team as BYU's ever had, top to bottom.
Yet 30 years later, you just told me, and during the break, if BYU has Brandon Davies, they probably go to the Final Four.
They go to the Final Four. And here's the deal, guys. A Final Four basketball team to me, I hate to say this because of my heritage, but a Final Four basketball team, because you have to play your way through, and in the level of talent now, to me, trumps the national championship back then in football. Now you've got to play your way. BYU wins a national championship in football now. That's different.
So why does a 2011 Final Four run, hypothetical of course, not trump 81 going to the Elite Eight?
Because it's also about matchups. Remember that BYU had to play Ralph Sampson in Virginia in the Elite Eight. And BYU, I think if they have Brandon Davies, they go to the Final Four. I really believe that. But again, my criteria is they got to finish the job. So they didn't get as far as that 81 team. They didn't have, there may be one guy short of as many NBA guys. And Danny was, oh man, he was not only a guy that could score at will and do whatever he wanted offensively, but he was a 6'5" guy that could guard and was one of the best defensive guards in the NBA for a lot of years. So as an all-around player, is there anybody that's ever been better here at BYU? I say no.
The GOAT at BYU.
Yeah,
Jimmer, greatest scorer here ever.
And Jimmer caught the national conscience like nobody's business. Like Jimmer was...
He benefited from the era in which he played, which was great.
It was unbelievable. I would go home to New York or go do a game in another league, and people that have nothing to do with BYU would go, oh my gosh, Jimmer, is this the most exciting? You get to cover them, don't you? And I go, yeah, I do. And they'd go, oh my gosh, that's got to be fun. And I have to say, the most fun I've ever had broadcasting was Jimmer's senior year. Hands down. It was unbelievable.
It was so fun.
It was a phenomenon. It was a circus. It was so fun. But I still got to give it to Danny as the greatest of all time at BYU.
ESPN a few years ago.
And nothing to take away from Kresimir Čosić and that group that are before that, but let's just call it in the modern era. Danny's the greatest of all time.
Early 2000s, I think it was, ESPN produced this series of made-up games where they would be like 90, in this situation, they'd be like 81 men's hoops versus 2011. And they would edit together this scenario in which the game played out.
That would be fun.
To me, that'd be amazing if we had like 83 versus 84 96 versus 84 football, 2011 versus 81. Like if we did some bracket challenge or whatever, but it was funny because you'd see, some, Terrell Owens catch a pass and then some old Packers safety come up and make a tackle. Or whatever. It was amazing.
Like I talk to my own kids, and we have these discussions about the greatest guys in the NBA of all time, and they go, "Well, a guy."
I know Gavin's pretty passionate that it's not LeBron.
Oh yeah, it's.
I know that.
We all agree it's not LeBron. It's MJ. We all agree with that. But then the question comes up: does the skill set transfer? And the same question: does the 81 guy's skill set transfer to right now? I'm telling you, Fred Roberts at 6'10" that can run up and down the floor and shoot with range and finish and defend. Yeah, he translates right now. He could play right now. And you don't think that Danny Ainge could play right now at 6'5" that can handle the ball, score from all over the court? It transfers right now. So 80's not so far back in the distant past that we go, yeah, but athletically they can't match up with these guys today. No, those guys match up just fine. I made Gavin watch highlights of Magic Johnson last night. Because he's like, well, LeBron, similar in size. And I showed him Magic, and he was just like, whoa. Yeah, he can play right now. Like, he handles the ball as well as anybody at 6'9", could defend. And so it's this, but that's a different era. 80 is not far enough back that era could not play with this era. And then give them today's training techniques and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. I mean, that 81 team could line up against the 2011 team. They'd be just fine.
Like Bill Russell to now does not translate. Like Bill Russell would be like a nice power forward for the Celtics.
And he
would be like an all-timer.
What he did, you can't discount with 13 championships and national championships.
Amazing.
But his skill set athletically doesn't translate. But the 81 basketball team skill set translates to right now. They'd be fine.
We're going to call a timeout on BYU Sports Nation. Continue with Blaine in just a moment, but not before some breaking news.
BYU Sports Nation breaking news.
Ashley Hatch, the #2 overall pick in the National Women's Soccer League, playing for Team USA's under-23 squad right now against Sweden, just scored in the 18th minute.
Goal!
Okay, stop. Okay, stop.
That reminds me of when Jerem was in...
This is ridiculous. This is out of control.
Did he take a breath yet?
He's taking a breath. He snuck one in there somewhere.
That reminds me of when he was in Pirates of
Penzance. One in there somewhere.
He held that note in Pirates
Ashley
of Penzance.
Hatch.
Goal.
You know how many people are so annoyed with you right now?
What is wrong with him? What show was that?
First time tuning in?
Is it Dumb and Dumber where he says the most annoying sound in the world and then he just does that?
That was worse.
Yeah.
That was worse.
That was worse.
You just called every Hispanic soccer.
Nobody holds it that long.
No, and your cadence.
Nobody in the history of soccer ever held it that long.
Ashley Hatch just scored for the U.S. Women's Under-23 national team. They're up 1-0. Very nicely done. Okay. Let's reset a little bit now. Clear the senses. Can you still hear,
I got
Blaine?
plenty of breath.
Yeah, I'm a little disturbed right now. I don't even know what's going on right now.
Oh my
That's the
goodness.
mantra of our show.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well we need Blaine's golden tones to help us out with something else that we generally do every day. Hit it!
Countdown to the Viking.
75. Nailed it.
75 days
I didn't
away.
harmonize. I needed to go a third higher, but I just didn't dare do it on the air.
It's
Next
okay.
time.
The
Give us
unison
those-
sounds really clean and crisp.
We have to practice that before we do it on the
Yeah.
air.
The harmonized
Yeah.
version?
I think that was better than the men's chorus on campus.
At the break, we were going to do it, and then I thought, I'll go third up, and then I just thought, it's really, really risky on the air. So I didn't do it, but next time we will.
Yeah. Yeah, this coming from a guy who's not risky. Threw a halfback toss in the first play of the 84 season.
And got smacked in the face by Chris Dolan.
All good.
Oh,
you
is
got
Chris
back
Dolan?
up.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
He put a
got back up.
thing on my chin.
Oh, wow.
Your tweets coming up in response to our question. Greatest BYU team ever across any sport. Plus, Kyle Van Noy's got some new bling.
Yes, he does.